where do you find peace? So in running, you are solving problems.
The majority of my ideas come when I go for a run because it's just enough kind of stress on my body that I stop thinking about the long to-do list and my brain gets some space to think creatively. So a lot of times if I set up a good problem statement in my head and go for a run, usually by the end of the run it's solved.
In work, you are working. But where do you find that balance, that peace to rest from everything?
So usually when it's with friends, my mind goes off. I like to also do something with my hands, something artistic, paint, or even like stupid things. I'm not that artistic to paint my own canvas, but I do paint with colors just so I think and just color and play with paint. But usually a big part of my life is also community. That's why I also am part of ADA, which is an organization for women in tech, and I organize design show and tells. I'm always looking for new ideas, but when it comes to like something that grounds you, that puts you in the space you're in, I also really like just observing urban design and nature. And there's nothing better than going barefoot in the grass.
Hello, people from the internet. Welcome to the episode 7 of Meaningful and Fun Chats with Designers. And this is an episode with Kaja Skerlj from Slovenia. She's a designer at Codeplain, as well as a founder of the Ljubljana's design show and tell community, as well a casual track field athlete. Have a good listening. See you. How did you get into design? Can we start from the humble beginnings?
Yeah, I think for me, it was quite an interesting story because I didn't know anything about design when I was in elementary school. But the biggest part of my life is my sports career. I started as a track and field athlete. I was a 400 hurdle runner, and most of my life was shaped by sports. And that's what also got me a scholarship to go to the US and study there. And it was by coincidence. I knew I liked math and I was quite scientific at times, but then I also was very creative. I am very creative, but I didn't find the right fit. In Slovenia, our colleges are quite specific and, not that interdisciplinary. And I didn't know that word at the time or that would exist, but I was always looking for a mix of different disciplines.
Yeah.
So then when I went to the US, I saw you can mix different subjects. You can pretty much create your curriculum. And then the first summer, I got an opportunity to go to San Francisco and work for a startup there.
Oh, wow.
And that's when
that's amazing.
My life opened. I saw design, and obviously in the US, design has been a big role that people take, and colleges, you can study design. And in Slovenia, that's not really the case, especially not product design, more on the graphic side. So then I spent the summer there as a 19-year-old in a startup and saw when it was called. The majority of people were still UX designers, and it was quite different than it's, I think, now. But ever since then, I spent the summer then and then continued as a designer and switched all my subjects at uni to study design. And then I didn't do any other roles after that were not something design related. So it was by coincidence, and I guess sports a little bit. And that's when I came across design. That's when I also decided that potentially I'm not going to go into a professional athletic career, but that this design startup world is something where I see more myself in.
Have you ever thought of doing design plus sport, like sports designer?
Yeah, that's a big part that it's always in the back of my mind. For the longest time, my dream was to work for Strava or, like a cool sports tech company.
Yeah.
And I think eventually I'm still going to do it because I think I have 6-7 years of experience in design, but in running and as an athlete, I have much more experience. So I think combining those two would be a great mix. And now I'm retired from track and field, but I still run every time and spend time in nature anytime I have any spare time. So I think it would be cool to combine those two. I'm just trying to find the best company. I like to work in startups, so any cool athletic startups potentially sometime in the future. But I also now like where I work now in Codeplain. where we work with. It's a dev tool, it's a code generation tool. So I see maybe sometime combining the AI code generation aspect with sports. That would be an interesting area that I wanted to explore.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting. The last episode that I did was as well with the sub-marathoner
Oh,
runner.
wow.
So I think for you it would be pretty interesting to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that I want. I ran my first marathon and I want to go longer
Yeah.
and push myself. I think it's nice to have career goals, personal goals, and athletic goals, because when one of these areas is not working, then you still have the other places where you find a little bit of your value and
Yeah, the meaning a little bit of that as well.
yeah.
I think the sport especially, it really, I don't know how it's for you, but for me, I feel like if after the work sometimes I feel stressed and I'm going to sports, I'm doing high rocks and my stress totally goes away. Do you feel about the same about the running as well?
Yeah, the majority of my ideas come when I go for a run, because it just enough stress on my body that I stop thinking about the long to-do list, and my brain gets some space to think creatively. So a lot of times if I set up a good problem statement in my head and go for a run, usually by the end of the run it's
Oh.
solved and I have a couple different ideas. I'm not always that structured, but a lot of times it works. If I have a clear problem that I have to solve, by the end it's going to be fine. But there's also a limit. If I push my body too much, then if I do it in the morning, then I get exhausted, and it's a negative effect. But it depends on the day. And I definitely have a couple of hikes around where I live that I go if I need new ideas.
Yeah. Where are you based at the moment?
Currently, I'm in Slovenia, just in the process of moving to Stockholm, and lived before in Berlin, Brussels, and the US. So I've been
Crazy.
in quite a lot of places, and I really like that ability and opportunity that I get to experience different places and see what I like in one place and what I don't. And I think it's for every period of your life, there is a city that better fits
Absolutely.
where you're at. And I'm really excited for this next period in Stockholm, especially the growing startup life that is there. I really find that if I'm in an environment where there's a lot of designers, engineers working on cool technologies, I get so inspired. And that's also why I moved to the US at the first place, to be around athletes and to be around, even at 15, I knew the US is the place where you grow a company where you start a company. So it was very simple. I'll go to a place where it's the most likely that's learn somebody, you're gonna meet somebody cool.
This brings me to the thought. Do you have, so you're speaking a lot about the people in tech, the people that are running. Do you have the authority that you look up to? A person in running or in tech that, I love what he does. Maybe I want to do one day the same thing as well or similar.
Good question. I think I get a lot of inspiration still from pure track and field runners like Alison Felix, who started her own company and is now back to running. So she won so many Olympic medals and world medals, but she's also an entrepreneur, and she's an entrepreneur with designing shoes for women, because fun fact, all the shoes are tested on male feet. So a lot of times some shoes don't. So because they just have two prototypes for a foot where they test the sneakers on, and that's a male foot, and it's a little bit different obviously than a female foot. So now she was one of the first ones creating shoes also for women, or that are tested for women. And now New Balance and Lululemon and probably Adidas as well are creating shoes that are also tested on women's feet. But she was one of the first ones, and I think I really get inspired by people being one of the best in the sport, but also pursuing a professional career. And now she's 34 and she's pursuing Olympics again. So that's also very incredible how you can balance so many things, and has a family as well. But I think, no, so she's one of the people that is still active as an athlete. I don't know many designers, but I know many, just as a whole, many CEOs who are very disciplined and very high achieving in their career, but also run Ironmans. And I think
Yeah,
there's
that's
something to
crazy.
that. I think it's a very similar, in a way, similar lifestyle. Very disciplined, hardworking, goal-orientated. And I think that fits for an Ironman and starting a company. And yeah, so I appreciate, or I follow that group as a whole. And I think I also work better when I'm physically fit and
Oh
feel
yeah.
good in my body. So that is something I observe in myself. And Slovenia, because I'm Slovenian, we're quite an athletic country anyway. Everybody hikes. Yeah, it's so funny when somebody comes here and they say that we have a different definition of a hike. It cannot be a hike if it's not 10 kilometers long and at least 1,000 meters in
Yeah,
elevation.
yeah.
I think it comes with also where I live or where I was born.
Yeah, that's super cool. Where do you feel is your home at the moment?
Oh, that's a great question. I always like asking people that because I think it changes. I think now I would consider Slovenia my home when I'm in Europe because I get to visit Slovenia much more often than when I lived in the US. But I remember when I lived in the US, I think around a year into studying, I would say when somebody say, "Where are you going?" I would say home, and I would think college. I would think the US. And I think that just reinforced as I was studying there for 5 years. And because I also visited what was my original home only every half a year or up every 1 year. So I wasn't as connected to the country. And also I think the country went its own way and I went my own way in the US. But now I also have 5 younger siblings and I
Oh,
really
wow.
like that I get to, yeah, it's
That's
such a big
amazing.
family. And it's nice that I can fly home for prom and for graduation and random small birthdays. And yeah, it's just small occasions. So then I'm much more connected with home and I can also jump on a plane much easier. But I wonder how that's going to change. I think it's where your base is, where now I wonder when Stockholm is going to be something that I call home. I think it also depends on friends, where your friends are, where your family is at. But now I would say, yeah, Slovenia.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Especially, I liked that you used the word going with a pace. It reminded me that you are a runner, but as
Yeah.
well that you keep the balance between the two, like the
Mm.
work, the home, the family, the friends, and go at your own pace. And it's just a very nice mentioning. But I'm curious, so you have 5 siblings. You are six in total, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What is, which one are you?
Yeah.
The numbers, like which one of them are you the oldest?
Yeah. I'm the oldest, and people say that I act like the oldest. But yeah, I'm the oldest, and the youngest is in 6th grade. So it's quite a
Oh,
big span, and everybody got quite a different experience. But I do see myself as somebody, at least I try. I hope my siblings would say that I do a good job, but I try to create a path for everybody, and they all visit me in all the countries that I live in, come and stay and see how campus life in the US is and how life in Brussels is. And now they're going to come to Stockholm and they came to Berlin. I do feel a little bit of that pressure to set the standard and yeah, but also sometimes feel guilty that I'm away quite a lot. But it's a nice thing that there's a lot of us. So there's always somebody home and somebody to help out if anything
yeah.
comes up.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's so nice of you to care, but I imagine it's pretty stressful as well. Do you find yourself putting pressure on yourself that you must take care of your siblings?
Yeah, I think quite a lot of pressure, especially a career in tech and in a startup, it's quite intense, usually long hours, events. We were just in London 2 weeks ago, and now we're going to Berlin this week. So it's not a normal schedule, but I think also my parents, my dad and my mom have a company. So
Oh,
I think I saw it from them. I think it was quite normal that you don't work in regular hours. And I think our parents taught us how to be flexible, how to still find time around its busy schedule. And so we a lot of times we have a group chat and then have to schedule 2 weeks in advance for that 1 hour that everybody's at home. But yeah, I think that's how we were born in like a very quite a fast-paced family, so it's quite normal. And we also go through there's periods of life where they're more busy and you have less time, and then sometimes it's more relaxed and you have more time to spend with
Yeah,
your
I really feel that. I'm as well from a family that's not as big, but we are four kids.
That's quite a
So
lot too.
yeah, that's usual, a bit more than usual.
Yeah.
And I'm not the oldest, I'm second. But I thought when you mentioned that you feel some pressure and you watch them and they come to you, I think when you grow in a family of more than two, probably, you have, I guess all people have growth opportunities, but if you have more people, more siblings around you, you have more growth opportunities to learn between each other. And when you're giving them the opportunities to see you, what you are doing, what you're working, what you are living, how you're feeling, then they can come and see. And maybe for them, you are that authority person that they are looking up to. And
Yeah.
it gives some pressure for you, probably, but maybe not. But on the other side, that's very nice that they can have this person.
Yeah, I hope so. I have to ask them at some point. I still want us to be siblings, not,
Yeah.
somehow hierarchical order.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I hope so. I try. But
Yeah, I think it comes natural, just living and yeah, enjoying each other's company.
yeah.
Humble. I wanted to come back a little bit when you were speaking about your daily running in the morning, and I really liked that idea of when you are going for a run, you are thinking of a problem that you want to solve. And it sounds like a unique method of solving problems. You're going on a run and you're solving the problem. What is your method for that?
Yeah, I think it came out naturally, but it's when a problem is clearly defined, then, but I can't find a solution, then even if it's a new onboarding flow for our platform, or it can be design related or not, but I think the main thing is to clearly define what are you trying to do. Is the conversion low? It's just some UI changes that you want to make, a new animation, or now it's nice. I do more and more designs that are just for delight. Then how do I show my personality in the platform I'm designing or even on my portfolio? And then I usually just get ready, go for a run, and then usually 15 minutes in, I'm so distracted by the nature and the sounds. Sometimes also I play music. I don't run with the podcast because then I ingest new information and I
Yeah.
can't think about solutions about my current problems. So I just put music, and eventually in 15, 20 minutes, I forget about the music and my mind just takes me usually into something that I was thinking. And then I find usually a couple ways I can address the problem. And a lot of times I stop or just mid-run voice record my thoughts. So then when I come back to the table, I listen it back because I forget if I don't record it in that second. And some people say during the shower that is the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the shower it also happens, but I usually don't have my phone there. And then I forget. But when I run, I usually run with my phone. So then I record my notes or write a couple sentences and then transcribe it back and implement it as soon as possible. So then I just have a lot of notes, and now I use Granola as a note-taking app. So then I just combine all my thoughts in there and I have it as a source of truth. So I don't have notes scattered all the way. And usually it's the first step, and then I continue. But that was something that was stopping me to proceed. And during the run, I find that solution. Usually it's something very simple, and then I can sit down and continue.
That's so interesting. So through running, you solve problems and you get that inspiration. I actually heard from one of the person that I was speaking with recently as well on the podcast, and he mentioned that he has the moments throughout the day when he feels that extra motivation and that impulse. And on that impulse, it's best to go and pursue that idea that you have. And then you have double motivation. So I'm feeling that through running, you're having similar kind of flow state that you get on the moment and you just really use it well.
Yeah, I think that's a big part. I think when I finish a run, I usually try to immediately implement what I was thinking, immediately message or create the next step, because yeah, you spark that motivation that, oh, I can solve it. And it's nice to put that energy into
Yeah,
actually implementing it. Yeah.
that's so cool. I think I would like to try this method. Usually, at least for me, running is where especially sport, is where I find peace. It's like a balance between work and then time for myself, where I'm just maybe not thinking about anything at all and running and digesting the workday and changing it into something else. And this brings me to the question I want to ask you, where do you find peace? So in running, you are solving problems. In work, you are working. But where do you find that balance, that peace to rest from everything?
Good question. Yeah, I think if I go for a run by myself, that's usually where my mind goes. But I try to have a lot of sports activities with friends. So we play paddle now a lot, and that's usually a place to fully disconnect from my
Yeah,
work. Yeah,
yeah.
forget, have fun. And so anything I do with friends usually doesn't revolve around sports. Even if we go hiking, we talk about life stuff, something else, sometimes about, usually not about work, because a lot of my friends don't work in tech, and it's nice that they don't, because
Yeah,
then we talk about completely different things. Some of our teachers, some of them psychologists, we talk about very broad topics.
yeah, yeah.
So usually when it's with friends, yeah, my mind gets off. And I also like some of my free activities now. I like to also do something with my hands, something
Ooh,
artistic, paint, or even
yeah,
like stupid things. I'm not that artistic to paint my own canvas, but I do paint with colors just so
yeah,
I don't have to
yeah.
think, I just color and play with paint. Or I sometimes like to cook, or I also love to read. So I have other outlets, but usually a big part of my life is also community. That's why I also am part of ADA, which is an organization for women in tech, and I organize design show and tells. So those are usually things where it's just fun, connect with cool people, not so much professional networking, but yeah,
Yeah,
just enjoying time.
that's very amazing. I'm glad that you found and that first you are initiative and what you're thinking, doing as well, because so many people think about the ideas projects but never start. And when I saw that you did this community of show and tell, I really thought that like instantly, yeah, I would like to speak with her because she's probably doing something more and she's curious about the world. So this kind of told me initially. And now that you mentioned also a bit maybe not related to my last sentence, but it made me really happy when you said that you're doing something with your hands. I found it is stress relieving. And it's a big change from what we're used to at the moment. We're just like in the computer all the time doing something. It's also a hand job.
Yeah, but
But
very different.
yeah, and painting especially or cooking, it's I don't really know how to paint, but sometimes I like to do that as well. Just paint something and not serious and not think about anything. And I'm just happy you have the same thing as well.
I'm always looking for new ideas, but when it comes to, yeah, like something that grounds you, that puts you in the space you're in, I also really like just observing urban design and
Ooh,
nature, how it's, because it's very creative, very, it has a function, usually has a reason why it's structured that way. So I just like to observe, and I try to get as much inspiration about my design, especially when I lived in Berlin. That was my core part, because it's such an artistic city and there's so much to see, and so many colors, cool designs. Not partly that it's connected to my work, because I also get inspiration for cool designs like that, but just because it's something new and
Yeah.
somebody decided to structure also. And then in comparing it to the US, the cities are structured very differently. So observing that, how somebody, an urban designer, decided how big of a sidewalk here they're going to design here, and how big of a road there, and where the park is located, how the path goes from there to there, and how is it optimized for cars? Is it optimized for buses? Is it for pedestrians? It very depends if you're in the US, Berlin, Ljubljana, Stockholm. So
Yeah.
it's that I also find that an interesting part of being a designer.
Yeah.
See.
Now you explained a little bit about the structure of the cities and what inspires you, but you mentioned that you find the structure in nature as well. How would you, so what is the structure in nature that inspires you?
Maybe not structure, maybe that's the wrong word that I used. I think when it comes to nature, just the feeling of the ground and hearing the birds, that's something that I observe, but also different colors. Like now I visited Stockholm quite a lot up to this point, and the sunsets are 2 hours long sometimes. So seeing the colors change. Somehow I want to transfer what I see also in a digital form for somebody that's not there, how to show that how for people to experience, because it's really 2 hours long, and throughout the 2 hours the colors on the sky change, and that's something.
Yeah.
But then if you're in Slovenian forest, the different shades of green are, and anywhere you look throughout the day, they're different. And I also know some of the countries actually have more words for those colors. We just say green, but there's countries that have actually words for the different shades of blue or different shades of green, which we don't, which I have to explore more. But yeah, just seeing those contrasts, and yeah, there's nothing better than going barefoot in the grass and
Yes.
hearing
Yes.
nothing but the birds.
Totally love it.
Yeah.
What are those countries that have different words for green? Is it Japan?
I think Japan, but I think blue is actually the coastal Mediterranean countries. I have to do
Yeah.
more research on that, but it would make sense that the ones that see more blue have more names for blue, and the ones that more green.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I love nature, I love green, but I never thought the more colors. I don't think in Lithuania we have more colors than
You have a lot of
one.
forests, so I think you would be able to see.
Yeah, for us, when you have this much, you usually don't think about it, that it's something special. But I have a friend that lives now in Mallorca or lived in Morocco, and sometimes I visit him, and it's like, not sometimes, I visit him once, but but it's such a interesting that some countries don't have so much greens, forests, lakes, rivers, and then I'm like, this is special what you have. I love it to be here for some time, but after a while, I miss my greens, and
Yeah.
it's like amazing where you live already.
Yeah, me too. That's the biggest part I missed when I lived in the US. Just the green, just the nature.
In which part did you live in US?
I lived in Pennsylvania, an hour from New York
Mm.
City and an hour from Philly. So it was still it was actually very green, the campus and the environment, but as a state, not as much.
Yeah,
It's really, you have to depend on the car, and I didn't have a driving license there. I had to rely on my friends to drive around. I wasn't as independent. But yeah, we went also to the national parks. So
that's
I explored
amazing.
the nature.
Yeah, I feel that in America, even if you don't have a car, it's easier to find friends than
Yeah.
maybe in Europe. People are just more social. I think so. Maybe not. How was it from your experience?
Yeah, I think it was Erin Mayer. She wrote a book, kind of prototyping all the stereotypes or defining the
Mm.
stereotypes of different
Yeah.
countries. And I think she says as well that if we very generalize it, Europe, or especially Eastern, like Slovenia, Europe, we are more of a coconut culture.
What?
And yeah,
Never
and
heard
the
of that before.
and the US is a peach culture. So
Wow.
they're fuzzy on the outside, so it's easy to get in. It's like you go on a plane and you somehow meet a guy and he tells you he has cancer and you just become great friends. You know so much about their family in on
Yeah,
our flight and you never see them again. And then in Slovenia, and I think if we can generalize it in Europe, we have a hard shell and then you need some time to get through the shell. And then once you're in, we're best friends, but you need some time. And then in the US, it's a fuzzy outside, very mushy, nice, peachy outside, but then a pit inside, and you need quite long to go through that pit. But you'll know everything about a person on a flight in that 1 hour. But they're fine with not seeing you again, whereas we are not going to tell you anything on a flight. But if we know each other throughout the years, then we're going to be best friends forever.
Yeah, that's such an interesting, like coconut and peach. I never heard probably who wrote this book. I guess they're from a country that has like good weather, a lot of vitamin D, sun, and coconut and peaches growing in his
No,
house.
no, she's actually from the US,
So
but I don't know from where in the US.
So yeah, because no one would tell about Europeans, describe them as coconuts.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Maybe as a like a I forgot the name, but there's like a tree that grows in Lithuania that with the nuts. And maybe I would say Lithuanians are have as hard shells as the nut, but
Maybe that's a
maybe
better metaphor.
maybe, but it's funny with that one.
Yeah,
And
but that's how I think it is with you. You meet a lot of people, but I
yeah,
think creating real friendships takes quite a long time. At least that was my experience
yeah.
in the US.
And for how long did you stay in US?
For 5 years,
Yeah,
my
so
undergrad and my master's.
was it enough time to develop friendship in 5 years?
Yeah, but I think I had a feeling that in a week everybody had friends and
Yeah,
everybody loved
yeah.
everybody, and I was like, I don't know anybody. I hardly know their names.
Yeah,
Can't pronounce half of them because I'm not
yeah,
used to those kind of names. And it took me 2 years. I think after 2 years, it was a big breaking point that I found my footing. But for 2 years, I didn't think I had any friends and that I could really rely on.
yeah,
And then yeah, after 2 years, then yes. And then the third, fourth, and fifth year was much, much easier. But I think I found it hard, this pressure that somehow everybody found their place and I didn't. But actually, I think we all didn't. For all of us, it takes time. It's just some people have a lower threshold of what a friend is. And I think for
yeah,
us, it's
yeah.
still you to invest a lot of time to call somebody your good friend.
So can you explain what is a good friend for you?
I think somebody you can call at any point of the day that you need help, that you need something from a pharmacy
Yeah,
or you're
yeah.
sick and they bring you. I wasn't feeling great and my friends left cookies on my doorstep. So I think they're the best friends, especially because they brought cookies. But yeah, I think it's in hard times when the people that show up, those are the real friends. And for the long term, that
Yeah,
are very consistent throughout your life.
yeah. That's amazing. Do you still keep in touch with the friends that you found at that 5 years period?
Yeah, from the US, actually not that much, unfortunately, because it's still the time difference, and I don't know when I'm gonna be next there. And a
Yeah,
lot of people just moved in the US. People move quite quickly around the states, so it's not like everybody's in Pennsylvania still. So it's so hard to visit them. But some people visited me in Slovenia.
that's so nice. I
Yeah,
love that.
so we're still in touch, but much less. For me, it was much more important to stay in touch and have reinforced my friendships from home, from Slovenia, because I know them for my whole life.
Yeah,
But yeah, from the US a little bit less. It was also unfortunate with COVID and travel restrictions that
yeah.
also broke the option to travel.
That's
And
understandable. And for me, it feels like at one moment, you cannot keep a lot of real friendships going. You have to invest time on each person, and it takes as well some energy from you, some time. And if I go to the another countries, I love meeting people, and sometimes I make friendships, but you need to as well invest in yourself into them. And I found that throughout the time, my friends changes, but as well, I have usually around 6 friends, which are like very good ones that I can give time. But there is also many other friends, maybe a bit not as deep connections that I met throughout the years. And yeah, it's just maybe an understanding that at the moment you cannot keep the relationship with all of the people that you meet throughout the years. And yeah, that's probably natural.
Yeah, some people come and some people go, but I think there's some core ones from each period of your life. I think some from elementary school, some from high school, some from
Yeah.
uni, some from work that stay, that somehow stay.
Yeah, and it's nice that they are from the different fields, different, as you say, work backgrounds that or elementary school, maybe some from US, maybe some from Stockholm, and you get so many other ideas what is happening because at some moments I thought that yeah, I have a lot of friends and I'm actually happy with that. A lot of friends are like me maybe in different fields, but I guess in spiritually like me. But as well, it's very interesting to have totally different personalities of friends because you can learn probably a lot about yourself from different sides by speaking with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I always learn so much about from my friends that are teachers or work in school because they really understand the current society and the actually problems on the ground, not in tech. It's a very specific culture in tech and not representative at all what how our society and culture looks. And
Yeah.
I think they really have a feeling of who's growing up, what's coming up, what are the actual problems families people are facing. So I always get to step back and kind of feel the real issues that are currently people facing.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you mentioned like problems, difficulties that happen in tech, and problems and difficulties that happen in your life, your friend's life. And it's interesting that in tech, you maybe it's very similar in life and probably any kind of problems, you have to solve them, go through them, and in that period, you learn something and get the feedback and
Mm.
develop more. How do you find the culture in tech? Is it your kind of culture? Do you like it?
I really like it. I like the fast-pacedness, the engineering mindset, the problem-solving mindset. So definitely the place I want to be. It's, I think it's just good to acknowledge that it's quite different to an everyday person that doesn't
Mhm.
work in tech. But yeah, I spend most of my time at work. We are now 8 people in the office.
Oh,
So very small, but very tech, very engineering.
yeah,
It's also,
yeah,
we're working on a dev tool, so it's engineering focused. But I really like the smallness, how everybody has such a big impact, how I really like how this problem solving mindset. I think anything that is, if anything is not working with a computer or
yeah,
in a room we're in, there's so many people that are ready to fix it, to find a
yeah,
solution, to problem solve. And I think that's very specific to tech, to engineering. And yeah, I think I just love and then when I talk with my grandparents, and my grandma just got an iPhone. And it's
really.
so nice to see how
That's cool.
she observes the tech, what
Yeah,
we're developing
yeah,
as a person who's never had a smartphone and doesn't, she always calls me now on FaceTime because she doesn't know how to call a normal phone. And she's always surprised that I show up on her screen and those kind of features.
yeah,
You never think
yes,
that somebody would know what a camera button with a camera is, with a film camera. Yeah, so I think it's the environment I want to be in. It's it's very fast-paced, very futuristic, but sometimes nice to step away from it.
Yeah, yeah. So throughout our talk, you mentioned at one point that you try to bring your design inspirations that you just collect into the tech and what you do. I guess being a founding designer brings you more opportunities to bring your own taste, your own personality into design. How do you find it?
Yeah, I think on bringing my own taste into the platform, for now, not so much yet, because there's not a lot of us. It's only one me, and it's just we just have to implement so quickly.
So
I don't get
many
to
things.
spend it's so many things, so I don't get to spend so much time thinking about every small interaction that I would love to eventually,
Yeah,
but it's not the time. I don't have the
yeah,
time
yeah.
yet. But on the inspiration side, now currently, and that changes so much, but I get so much inspiration from Mobbing. I have the Mobbing NPC, so I get
Mm.
that. I think that's a nice, and they were actually a sponsor of our
Hackathon.
previous, not the hackathon, the meetup, the design meetup, the design show and tell that I did. And I've used them for so long, so that's why I also reached out to them if they can be a sponsor, because I think everybody that came to the meetup would benefit from them. So on the formal side, I get a lot of inspiration there. And then I love the Dive Club podcast and all the newsletters and
Ooh,
all
yeah,
the content that comes
yeah.
there. I think it's so high quality. In the last 2 years, I've been using X much more to follow the right people and get design inspiration there. So that's there. But I think the issue is more, how do you then stop being inspired and create something unique to yourself? So yeah, you can spend your time ingesting other people's work, but I think it's even more important to then eventually figure out when to stop and reduce all the noise and all the effects from others and just create something that you feel represents you and that it's a good functionality. So now it's more for me that, okay, yeah, I have all the inspiration. I do the initial product discovery, but then I have to stop and just go with my gut, what I think is good. And then I also just at work user test a lot to confirm that or deny. But now with the influx of so much information, I think the bigger problem is when to stop being inspired.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
because a lot of times I feel frozen. There's so much inspiration, so many people doing great things, and I am not keeping up, and my designs are not up to the standard. And I think now hosting design meetup, it's a common feeling a lot of designers have. So now I've been trying to reduce the amount of inspiration and information I ingest and simply create and see if some sticks, some doesn't. So I also just created a page on my portfolio where I just add small animations, discoveries that I do. And I find it much more fun to do that and to actually be creative myself, not just copy other people's work. Yeah.
That's so interesting what you're saying. The two ideas that pop into my head is the first one. I heard this as well. That one person said to me, yeah, if you want to be creative or get some your own ideas, you have to be bored. You
Mm.
actually have to be like, yeah, so bored that you want to create something of your own. And I feel as well, there is so many, yeah, ideas online, people creating, sharing, and for sure, there's too much of that as well. I really feel it too. And it's really good that you found this conscious, that this is a thing that stops you from being more creative and maybe creating a barrier for yourself that gives you the momentum, the change of pace, change of rhythm, and to create something from your own head. Yeah,
Yeah, I like how you said to be bored. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I think sometimes on a bike, on a bus, I was listening to podcasts and ingesting more and more information. But that's actually the time where you can be bored and
yeah,
let your mind wander and be inspired by the people around you or something that you were thinking about. But I think we get, even in the places of when you could be bored, now we're ingesting information, and there's less time. And then I think it's just the comparison and perfectionism is just the consequences of all of this that freezes you up and doesn't let you create and explore, because not everything is going to work. But I'm just saying that because that's also the exploration I'm doing with myself, and I see that I have to get over.
I really feel you with that. And for me, recently was a discovery that I understood that I really need to save my focus throughout the day. For example, when I'm getting up, sometimes I'm still doing that, but I try to be conscious about what I'm doing just after being waken up. So what I found is that if I'm conscious and I'm thinking, yeah, Nicholas, let's be conscious today from the morning. Let's maybe not look into the social media and stuff like that, and just go for a walk and then do some work that is really hard for me. And I painted a picture inside my head that there is a limited amount of space. And in the morning, if you get up, if you look into social media, you put a little ball into that space and it slowly fills in with more of the balls. And if you start the work, but you in your head have 5 balls already of the different things that you maybe looked up, went through social media, that I'm not saying it's bad, it's just how it is for me. And if I, with this concept, start the day with a fresh mind, with no things, and I'm conscious what I'm putting in that field, then I feel like this removes that barrier where I'm pulling in information from the anywhere. I'm like conscious where I'm taking it from, and then it gives more creativity to work with.
Yeah, I think the visual that you gave reminded me a lot of, it's actually from a different, completely more of a social studies, but Brené Brown, who's a social worker, she says it well. If you have a cup and you have the important things in your life, and if we just focus on the career, on what you do in work, what you do as a designer, you have the important features that you have to develop. And those are the big bowls you put in the cup. And the small bowls are the small inspirations, the social media posts, and that's the sand. And if you fill the cup, and this is the limit for your day, and if you fill the cup first with sand, there's not enough space for the big bowls to fill. But if you fill the big bowls first and then fill the sand over, the sand goes into the crevices and you fit much more into the cup. And I think as a designer, we usually think quite visually. I really like that representation of how prioritization and creativity works.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's very interesting. And I've read some of your posts online that you shared. And in one of them, you mentioned that at the moment, your process of designing is less about the Figma, but more about jumping into the AI tools and just working straight from that point. So could you a little bit run through your designing and working maybe now at the company? What's the process like?
Yeah, it changes quite a lot with different tools, but currently I spend most of my time in Claude Code to prototype. Now I watched also the Dive Club video from the designer there, and I learned about the prototype skills. So now I use a lot of Claude Code skills to help me to trying to find, basically now I defined a couple skills that helped me with prototyping, with experimenting on different features. And because I find so many things I repeat when I prompt, most of the time I'm working on a feature and I want to brainstorm different ideas, how to implement it. And I ask for 10 variations and I want some iteration and maybe use the mobbing MPC and maybe a front end skill for the UI. So I templated that in a prototype skill. So I call that a lot of times. But I still find that I can only get up to a certain point with Claude. But for that craft and great design, I take what I ideate mainly in Claude and work in Figma to create a polished version. And then a lot of times I use the MPC, the Figma MPC to import the Figma prototype into Claude so that then the latest version is implemented, and then I push a PR to our developer team and ask for an engineer to review it. So I go through the entire cycle, and especially working on the platform where it's not that important if code quality is good. I find that there's no problem if I push code into production with a review from one of our engineers. And the same as working, our main interface, the terminal. So the same is when working on the terminal UI, I can own the production code and it's no problem. Whereas our state machine, our backend, that's where there's more code reviews required. And also I don't have the knowledge to work on that side. So yeah, I would still say that I do rely on Figma still quite a lot, but if I put it in percentages, I think I spend 80% in Claude and then 20 in Figma or some potentially other tools. I also do, because I'm the only designer, I do a lot of user testing. So note-taking tools like Granola are crucial for me to just ingest that. And then a great tip I got from our CEO, who's also my direct report, is if I do all of the user testing and I have to showcase to my team what to care about, to showcase the pains of the users, so we implement it, so we know how to prioritize. So it's very important for me to record all the user testings and to communicate what I learned to the rest of the team. So they don't spend the same amount I did for the user testing, for the prep, and for then after the implementation of all the bugs. But so they fuel the user, so they get to connect. So they also join me on some user testings, but I lead them. So yeah, I think let me see if there is anything else. I'll look through my apps on I've been exploring with paper a lot. I still haven't found the right use case because currently we don't have that much UI and that much animations needed, but I think paper is something I want to spend more time exploring. Paper.
Paper, you mean just paper, or it's a pen?
No, it's an app. It's an app. It's a canvas-based Figma-like app. Great for animation work and if you have to go deep into one feature, it works similar to Figma, but has some additional features. And everything is HTML, CSS based, so it's much easier to transfer into code. So I recommend that.
Heard of it.
I definitely paper, but add app when you search for it, because you're going to get the wrong. It's interesting how many new companies use everyday terms like granola and paper for their app naming.
Yeah, for sure.
But because we're also in dev tooling, I've been exploring with other dev tools. So I learned how they do their onboarding, because docs and a clear onboarding of install scripts it's a crucial part of our app. So I test different terminals. I use the classic Ghosty now, but Z for the IDE and different browsers, just so I see different developer toolings and how they approach their design.
Yeah, for me, it sounds really interesting. And each time I speaking with some designer, it's interesting to hear what kind of process they're using, because as you say, there are so many tools that are being developed now and released, and everyone is using some type of different tools, but achieving the same result.
Do you have any interesting apps you're using, or how does your process differ from mine?
So at the moment, I'm not using as much of the AI, and for me, it's still a little bit scary, I would say, to use it. So I'm more focusing on design, but I have partners that I work with, and they're doing the engineering, doing the programming. But I think I want to keep going and freelancing and working for myself. And I think it's an only way that through that process, at my own pace, I will learn that. And yeah, I'm slow with that, I will say. But I'm as well, I don't find it as a problem at the moment.
I think that's the exact core of it. If you don't see it as a problem, I think we are trying to solve for problems that don't even exist sometimes.
Yeah. But every time, as you mentioning this process, for me, it's so interesting to learn them. And I will definitely try that. But it's a scary question as well. I don't feel comfortable about that yet. A little bit imposter because I haven't touched that a lot, but I feel the more I will be working, the more I'm like slowly working, but thinking of ways how can automate my work, automate some tasks, because I'm as well working for myself, and I do have a bit more tasks than only design. And I'm thinking as well how I can reduce those tasks so that they take me less time. I can use some AI probably in there and to do more design. But yeah, I guess it's a process of learning as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's great if you look at your process and see what is a repetitive step and if you can automate it with an agentic workflow. But for me, it also helped me a lot to be in a community of people who took the time to explain me what is GitHub, what is Git, how to create a PR, how does a PR even work? Because all of those things you have to learn. And it helped me that somebody took the time to teach me. And then once I learned, now I'm much more comfortable, and the imposter syndrome then kind of decreases because you know the basics. And I think as a designer, at least that's how I see myself, we're great at understanding our user and mimicking and speaking their vocabulary, not necessarily doing what they do, but speaking what they do. And for me, it helped me that somebody explained everything, how to create a PR, how to branch, how to do a commit message. And then once I had that vocabulary, I was much more confident to ask, because I knew I was asking the right questions and forming it the right way. So I think just learning the vocabulary and what exists is the main part, and then you can ask the right questions and get answers quickly.
I think a strong thing as well is having a mentor to be with. It's supporting structure. I do have for the business, for the freelance, but it's a good thought. I might need to go and look for some friends from some people that can mentor me on this thing as well.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea. Do you have a mentor?
Not formally. I had more short-term mentors for a period that when I also, with my friend, we started a small company. So during that time, it was more focused around starting a company. Currently, not a formal one, which I think it would be very interesting. Very beneficial, definitely. But yeah, I think for now, we're such a small team, and I work directly with the CEO at our company, and I see him as is my boss, but also I learn every day something from him and from the rest of my team. And because we work so closely, I just ingest so much information from them. So in a way, I don't see the necessity currently because, I have quite a lot of experienced people in the team, and I feel like I can get the majority of the answers just from them, and I'm not even close to emptying all the knowledge that they have.
Yeah. I think that's totally understandable when you work with the people that have experience, and it's such a small team that you're constantly interacting with them. For sure, it's unofficial mentoring that you're getting, and it's totally fine. I don't think if you are getting value, you probably do not need. I think it's natural. If it comes naturally, you do not need to make it hard for yourself and look for another things.
But I think I got a great tip at a previous company I worked for, somebody that was not my direct report, for them to ask them if they could observe my work and give me feedback. And I think that worked very well because they don't directly work with me, but we are in touch enough for them to observe my work. And we had a monthly meeting, and he just said, oh, maybe communicate this better. When you did this, you could present it better, because so much of design is how to get the buy-in and how to present your ideas. And I think there's so much work I can do there. And I think that's a good, maybe I would explore, but it's still a small team. So I don't know who actually I would use, because we work very interdependently. We're very independent, but rely strongly on each other.
Yeah, I totally understand. And such a good thought as well. There is a lot of times that I feel, sometimes I as well, but people usually don't think that they can ask someone for looking after them, giving some feedback every month or so. And it's such a good opportunity to learn something about yourself from a different perspective, like of a person that maybe is in finance, and how person in finance department maybe sees you as a person in the design from just his view. It's your decision what to accept from that person, what resonates with you. But I think it's a very cool idea. I
Yeah.
might do that as well.
I recommend it. I think it's always a good option.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned at one point about the delights that bring some joy to you at the moment, some excitement, if you find probably time. What are
Mhm.
those at the moment for you?
Do you mean in design?
Yeah, what makes you happy?
I play a lot with shaders these days and just understanding also how they work on the code side that I know how to tweak them. If you look at my website, that's the animation in the background. That was my first exploration, and now I'm doing more of a deep dive because I also see that Figma has their own shaders feature and Framer has it. So it's definitely something that multiple companies are exploring with.
Yeah.
So that's something where I try to add, because it's a cool way to add animation, and it looks, a lot of times when I look at something that somebody created, I don't know how to engineer it back. And I think with shaders, that's something. But then there's quite a lot of designers who then make their GitHub repositories public, which I also try to do. And that's actually how I first got into it, because I saw a
Yeah.
public repository from a fellow designer, and mine are also public, so anybody can see them. That's one thing. And I've never dove deep into animations and like
Oh,
actually took
yeah.
the time. How many milliseconds should animation last for a different effect? So I've been using a lot of Emil's, I don't know his last name, something on K, skill, Cloud Code skill, but also his animations that he has on a portfolio. Maybe thinking about taking his motion
Of course.
class,
That's
of course,
cool.
yeah, because it's the next step that I want to also our product to take. That's one thing. And then also a big part is learning how to design in the terminal, because our primary user interface is the terminal. It's interesting to design ASCII art and characters, and what are possibility there, what are the possibilities, but also I have to learn the technical language there, because
Yeah.
it so depends on the library you use with the terminal. Is it a TypeScript library? Is it a Python library?
Yeah.
It's gonna look very different, feel very different. So I also have to then speak with the engineering team how I would prioritize what our tech stack would be. So I obviously take a lot of inspiration from Cloud Code. That's why I also do all of my designs in Cloud Code Terminal,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they are one of the leaders, obviously, in that space. But any terminal-based interface, which there's now every day, there's new ones popping up. I test them and I see, and for example, before we had a product at codeplain, we needed a header animation, and I worked with a motion designer to create a jellyfish ASCII animation, because jellyfish is our character, our mascot of the company, and we didn't have anything to show, no screenshots, because nothing
Yeah.
existed. Now, if you go on our website and do /jellyfish, you'll still see it, but we had to retire it because we actually have a product. But it was actually
I want to
interesting
see it.
now. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think you just /jellyfish, and it floats forever there. We always joke around. We have an emoji in Slack with a jellyfish just for that.
Oh, yeah, I found
I,
it.
I
That's
see
so
your face
cool.
lit up.
Yeah.
So that's the famous jellyfish. And then I was wondering if this is our mascot, how to put that into the terminal. So then I
Yeah.
was playing around how to create frames from a video, photo frames, and then transfer that into ASCII art, and how to animate it. And those kind of things I'm learning on a daily basis what's even possible, because as a designer, you're not born in the terminal, the same as engineers are. So it's also the terminology that I had to learn. So now that also comes in pair with creating PRs. I do all of that through the terminal. I don't prompt that because I want to learn all the Git commands, just all the shortcuts that engineers use, so that I know this is how the user use the terminal. We have a terminal UI, so I have to know all of that.
Yeah, and your audience, your customers are the developers probably.
Yeah.
So you also need to not only understand how to work with your product, but also need to understand how your customers, developers use it. So yeah, you're getting so much closer to the engineering side. So have you ever thought of becoming design engineer, or maybe you call it already yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I think every company defines that term differently. Also, when I look at job descriptions and what people are looking for, some I think are just creative computer scientists,
Yeah.
I would say. And you clearly have to have 10 years of experience as an engineer and then maybe be a little bit creative and then you're a design engineer. But then I think some teams that I talk to, then they just call themselves design engineers because they do write code or vibe code. So I don't know exactly where's the line, but I definitely see myself knowing much more about the engineering side than I would say a typical designer would, because I think if you're designing for dev tools, you have to. It's a big part. And I also like, because my master's is in engineering, so I do have my educational side is partly engineering, partly design. So it makes sense. I also enjoy it. But I do think there's still a big space for designers that don't code. I think that only focus on visual, because I do see the negative side of knowing too much of the engineering side is that you optimize the features to be as easy to implement because you're going to have to implement them. But if you're solely a visual designer, you don't think how long that's going to take to implement. And then you can, I think, be more free and explore more and make the animations very complex for a better user experience. And if you do both, I think I have in the back of my mind, this is going to take longer. I should make something quicker.
Yeah. I think it depends how you look into it, but I think there is no minuses or no pluses. It's just neutral what you decide and what you need at the moment. For example, as a founding designer working with the dev tools, you really need that. For some people that are maybe brand designers or graphic designers, maybe they don't need to get into it that much. And it really just depends on each person what they're working on. But it's really interesting the product that you're building. And for me was as well that what you like how you create it. For example, let's do a hackathon to find feedback from the developers and invite them to use the product. And I think for such a you're not so small anymore, you're growing, but it's still at the early stage of the growth to create these events and collect people, collect feedback. It's such a cool that you're building as well a community around the product.
Yeah, and I think that's what I learned building now the developer tools is the developer community around the product is the core part of the company. And the same as I think I saw that first when seeing how engineers interact with different programming languages. I'm a Python developer. I love Pythons. The Ruby community is crazy. They just write in Ruby and they're very passionate about that language. And we also have we're also developing our own programming language. So a big part is, it's called Plain with its own syntax. And that's how our specs are written. And it's that community part is huge, that people feel like that language it's beneficial to their workflow, and there's some kind of cult almost behind it. So hackathons are a great way to build that, but also primarily now just for user testing, because it's the easiest way to get feedback currently.
So how did you do user testing? Is it like you find a person that already uses your platform and can you run through the process? I'm very curious.
Yeah, there's different kinds I do. So one is just through events. The two hackathons we did, one in Slovenia and one in London. In London, we sponsored, in Slovenia, we organized. Those ones are more, here is a challenge, and we'll walk around, see your workflow just by observing you from the back, which I think is the best kind of user testing. You just see the normal flow. And
Yeah.
a big part of user testing for me is also to see the developer's environment. So which terminal they use, what do they use R2 in the terminal or in the terminal in the IDE, which browser, all those things, which are they on light theme, dark theme, those things affect how they interact with our product a lot. So just observing that and which commands they use, because we had to define a lot of shortcuts, flags, and I had to define them, and so I wanted to see how they interacted with them. So a lot of the user testing on hackathons is more observing, but we also had a table where we sat and they came to us and said, oh, I don't know how to do this. I got stuck there. So the common problems, then we problem solve with them, which is also nice that we are in the same place when they are testing, because we can problem solve there. So if we wouldn't be there, they would have a poor experience and potentially not be able to generate code, which is the goal of our onboarding is to generate code for the first project that you have. And they would potentially not get this successful happy path and never use the product again. So that's also a good part. And then on a weekly basis, I do user testing over Zoom on specific flows. Usually that's onboarding currently and up to the first render, or parts of it. And then I create the prototype. So now I'm testing a new way a user would onboard with an agent. How would they use Claude Code to help get onboarded with codeplain? I actually created, it's a very specific use case, but I created a Python file they're going to download and run the script in the terminal and then go into an agent. So it's this workflow that I defined that mimics it mimics our production workflow the closest, so that I can see, because it's quite a product discovery, quite a new way. We have to decide if we're going to go that direction. But the normal user testing I do on a weekly basis is just I define which flow I'm going to test. If that's from sign up to first code generation, I mostly start with just some guiding a setup, and then usually just say, can you go on our website, copy the install script or the curl command, and generate code for your first project. And then I observe and ask for clarifications, but that's the main task that I'm currently testing for. And it's in a weekly cadence, because after that, I immediately try to communicate through Slack and videos, clips from the videos with an engineering team and say, this is fully an engineering problem. Somebody from the engineering team should say, this is a product problem. Let me try to implement myself. And if I need some help, I engage somebody from the engineering team. But in a week, I try to solve all the problems that I saw in the user testing, because we still have quite a lot of clear problems to solve. I think eventually we will be able to get more feedback and see that, actually this part is fully solved, but currently there's still a lot of things. Now it's still I still need a lot of time after user testing to actually make the changes, because if I don't make the changes, then why would I even user test? So, but I think it's this cadence of weekly user testing for specific user flows, and then monthly events that we host or attend, where we do more broader, on a bigger scale, and user test, but also some selling and other things in between.
I think first, it's cool that you do this with the community. Second is that you connect as a person working in the company with people, and it, at least for me, when I used to work in a company, and it would be, you're still working as designer with a computer, but now if you're speaking with the people, not daily, but every week, you find as well time to socialize as well. It's a normal human interaction, what they need. And it's good that you have it as well here. And I really liked as well in this process that you are constantly developing, constantly incrementing, and working on the new ideas. And it sounds like a dream, like utopia, that at one point there will be no more problems to solve. But I don't think
Yeah.
it's a human nature. People
No.
always have this, they want to solve something and they have struggles, anything like it
Yeah.
never stops.
No, and then we're gonna have a new feature, a new product, and it's gonna be testing there. But it's as long as it's not the first user testings, the people couldn't even sign up. We had a bug sometimes on the first page. So we had a
Yeah,
whole call and they couldn't go through the first screen. And yeah, we're post that. Now that
yeah,
those clear
yeah,
bugs are not there anymore, but there's still, yeah, we still find some weird spelling mistakes and links not working and just
yeah,
things that break.
yeah. I think when it happens on the call, it's usually a demo bug.
Yeah.
But this is a nice word, but I'm really glad that we had this talk, and I want to close it with a question as well. What would you like to ask next person on this podcast about anything?
Oh, wow. And the next person is gonna be designer in some, we don't
Yeah, I have
know.
zero clue.
Let me see. What is something that I'm
It can be about anything, design, life, running, peace,
running?
balance, nature. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's gonna be design. Maybe I'm always curious what people think about this intersection between design and engineering. Does a designer have to know how to read code or not? And what is how does the next 5 years of design look like? How does a successful designer function? How to be a successful designer in the next 5 years if you want to prep your life, your career to be a successful designer? What skills would that require? Because I'm not quite sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Question.
that's a really good question. I think it's even hard to think for the next 6 months what's
Yeah.
going to be in 5 years.
Maybe
Like, wow, we're
maybe I'll
gonna have
rephrase.
flying cars.
Yeah, maybe I'll rephrase my question. Maybe let's say 2 years because it's much
No,
hard
it's
to
fine.
imagine the next five.
In 5 years, it's really interesting how maybe 2 years ago we would be thinking how it would be in the next 5 years, but now it's like it can go anywhere.
Yeah, who would know last year that we're gonna use Claude code and
No, no way.
push code?
No clue.
Yeah.
And it's changing. Yeah, so let's leave it for the next person. And this is for me interesting with each episode. I'm doing something a little different, asking a little bit different questions. And I have never asked this at the end, but I think in the Diary of CEO, they do have this, they ask
Yeah.
it. So I thought, let's try this for the episode.
I really like Dario CEO, and that's why I knew that I heard this concept, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very nice content. So why not to try it? Yeah, so I'm really grateful to meet you. It was fun chatting with you. And if you will be around Lithuania, you have a place here. So
Oh, I would
always
love.
keep in mind that.
Thanks for connecting with me. If people don't know, it was a full cold reach outreach, and I love that we connected.
Yeah, it's just nice. For me, one person as well from this podcast told a cool idea that I'm start doing as well. For each episode, I'm collecting a little bit of people's work, what they are most happy of, proud of in design that they have created. And after the maybe 195 episodes, I'm going to do a small book
Yeah.
publication and put a little bit about the person, about the interview, and their work that they're proud of. So I would like to ask you to share some of the work that you're just happy with, that you would
Mhm.
like to be shown to the world as well. It can be anything as well.
Yeah, I'll share it with you after the call, but I think my website Now I updated it slightly. It's a great place to start. And then also any of the work on codeplain's website or
Okay.
platform is by me. So,
I see the jellyfish. It's beautiful.
yeah, you can link the jellyfish. That's one of the proudest works I did.
Yeah. So I have just the last question I love feedback. You love feedback as well, collecting it from the users.
Yeah.
How do you have any feedback for this episode, for how I was
Mm.
leading conversation, and it can be anything as well.
I really like how I had a feeling that you really listened to my answers and then recap them and then added a question or went into a different topic. That I think it would be interesting. I don't know if you're adding an intro, but for me to decide to listen to a long form
Yeah.
interview, I need to have a purpose, a clear output of what I'm gonna get. So the first part of introducing a person and also how the interview is going to be structured so that I know even if there's a section I'm not interested in to fast forward or move.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the core for me to decide, because I think we had the design portion and more of a live portion.
Yeah,
And maybe
true.
if it's a full-on designer just learning design, they wouldn't be interested in the live portion. And if I think there's potentially different publics audiences that would be interested in the podcast. So I think it would be good to structure, if it's a full-on design, then to just talk about design. If it's more of a lifestyle, then to do more of a lifestyle questions. I don't know, so that the person listening the podcast knows, oh, this is going to be, every second word is going to be design.
Yeah, I understand. And I think it's a good idea. I think I will try to do for the next episode when I saw this kind of on YouTube. There is timestamps and you can look through about what they are speaking at the moment. That's a good idea. I will try to do that. I'm not sure if it's possible to do on the Spotify. I will look up.
So
Yeah.
it is, because that's how I consume podcasts.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen
And then
that, but
also, I think there's some platforms that do it automatically. They do the timestamps, and then in the description of the video, they put the timestamp, so you can also read the agenda below and click through it. And I think it helps just to structure it.
yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, so thanks for the feedback, and it was very nice to speak with you. I'm releasing the episode next week on Thursday,
Okay, already.
so
Good.
we'll keep you updated on it as well.
Please do, and I'm so looking forward. And I really like when you text, we messaged. I love the concept. It's a great. I don't know, how did you come up with the number?
It was just the idea just that came into my mind, probably walking in the nature or something. And I had this idea for a couple of years, and I actually recorded the episode 2 years ago. But then after it, I stopped. I just had life stuff happening. And now from this year, I was like, I want to continue and just keep going with the flow.
No, I think it's great, and it's a different aspect to. I wonder if you're going to see any patterns with designers to different countries, continents, all of that.
Yeah, it's so interesting as well, that art as well, looking into what you as well do, and imagine what kind of art people create in maybe, I don't know, Congo Republic or like China or Japan or Russia. I don't know. It can be so different, just view into the culture, into life, how they live, what they create. So yeah, it's so many aspects.
Yeah, thanks for your time, and I really like talking to you.
Yeah, you too. So see you. Have a nice day, not the evening yet. From your time just flows so fast.
Yeah. Oh, you too. Thanks.
Yeah, see you. Bye bye.